living in a place where you do not have some sort of home or apartment. Okay, we all have someplace to live. We're very fortunate. That would be one of our treasures. Jesus talks about now. How important is that? Above and beyond having shelter, how important is it for us to have a house that has certain kinds of things, or is a certain size, or is a certain shape, or has a certain amount of amenities, that has the newest appliances always, that has the best of, that has... If that's where we're putting a lot of our time and energy, we're kind of pouring our hearts and souls into it, well, that's where our treasure is. Or how about our vehicles? Vehicles can be a bit of a status symbol, okay? Do we have to have what we consider the top of the line of everything? Or are we more concerned about, well, it'd be nice to have a few amenities, but it's mostly about the transportation aspect. It's about some comfort, but we don't necessarily have to have the finest of the best luxury cars. Or how many we have. 1 for each person, 2 for each person, 3 for each person. What we focus on, that's where our treasure will be. How about recreation? It's important for us to vacate at times. Not out of our minds, mind you, but to vacate. In other words, to go on vacation. You know? Or just to have some recreation time. That's all good and well said and done. However, is it something that we pour so much of ourselves into that that becomes one of our big focuses? Now I have to admit, and I'll have to have my brother Wade go up on YouTube to watch this. I have to admit, when we go to their home for Thanksgiving, and when I see that 70-inch screen on their wall, I think, oh man, that's the TV for me. You know? But I feel pretty fortunate to have one that's about half that size. It's bigger than some people have. So I feel fortunate that way. Although he has other toys as well. But it's just an example about where are we focusing. Now in his house, he's got plenty of room. He could even go bigger. I know he could. But he's chosen not to. And yet just down the road, I know one of his neighbor's houses, as we would walk the dogs, Car and I would go along. There was one house, I gotta tell you, I don't know how big that thing is, but it's bigger than that. It's huge. Where are our treasures? How about our sports? How invested are we, whether we're playing them or watching them, cheering them on, whether it's our kids or professional or college? How invested are we? Don't get me wrong, I love my sports. I love playing sports. Shameless plug. Only because I was born in 1961, so I can't be a Packers fan. If you're born before that, you can be a Packers fan because there were no Vikings. But I was born that very year. As much as I love this team, and as much as I love going to games, the few times I do get to go, in the big scheme of life, it's not the most important thing. Although I will still always love them. But that is just a part of my life. How about our gadgets? We have smartphones now. We have smart everythings. We have iPads. It's one thing if we're getting them to work with them. It's another thing, do we have to respond to those ads we see on TV to get the newest and the best, the most razor thin? I know one of these days they're going to be thinner than a credit card. It's going to be just like a piece of paper that you roll out and roll back up in your pocket or fold. Do we have to have the best, the newest, the brightest, the shiniest? And, speaking of gadgets, and where our treasure is, How invested are we in these things? Are they tools, or are they more of an obsession? How often do you have to play games on your phones? How much time do you spend on that, or on your computer, playing games and other things? How much time do we spend, for those of you in social media on Facebook, and some of those other things? Do we need to always take a call when we're in the middle of meeting with somebody, when we're out and about? Or can we, and mine is actually on silence, can we actually silence them and just use them as tools, but pay attention to the things and the people that really matter in the moment? Where's our treasure? Here's another one that we don't usually hear about when we use this word treasure. And again, I want to give you that word one more time. Thesaurus. Treasures. Are they about the treasures we compile here on earth? Or is it more about the treasures we compile with our faith? And speaking of faith, the treasures, we just had an example of giving back our treasures. But what about our other treasures? I know today we're talking about stewardship and the monetary aspect, but what about our other treasures? Do our treasures lie in our ability and our penchant for complaining and criticizing? Or building up? Building up people. Building up the people of God. If I had a nickel for every negative comment I've heard in my lifetime, and yes, even among my faith families, we wouldn't even bother with this. I'd fund the church myself. Think about your own life. How many times have you heard the negative about you? The criticizing, complaining? Now, I'm not talking about, and this is always a tough one, people go, yeah, but how do you decipher that? I'm not talking about that which is justified. I mean, if you're doing wrong according to Jesus, you're doing wrong. That happens to all of us. What I'm talking about is, well, you know, it kind of reminds me of The Simpsons. I never liked that little wiener Millhouse. You know, or, you know, that person, she, he, they, you know, they just really bug me because they are, that's an opinion. How much are we so wrapped up in our opinions about others and about how their opinion should be about us, that in the end, that's really where our treasure lies? There are so many things. The way we criticize one another, the way we seek after popularity in school, but it doesn't end in school. It goes out into your life. Or how we look up to the famous and those who have fortune, as if somehow they are better, as if they know more than we do. And quite honestly, sometimes I've heard people talk in a way that they're basically saying that they seem to know more than God. Where is our treasure? Where is it? Where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be. When we talk about pouring your heart and soul into something, how often do we talk about pouring our heart and soul into God? I hear about when people are alive and when they're gone that, oh, they were a hard worker. That's great. Like, can you imagine how many times I've heard people say, you know, they were a hard prayer. They were just as St. Paul said, they prayed without ceasing. They did their job as good stewards. They were really good stewards of the land. They were really good stewards of family, friends, and they were really good stewards of the strangers. They worked so hard at that. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The reason we chose this verse, the stewardship drive for this fall. And while it will continue until we get to next fall, 2019, is because Jesus really strikes at the heart of all of us. He reminds each one of us, and this may sound like a little Lenten, but it's okay to be like that even if we're not in the season of Lent. But Jesus asks us, really take a good look, be reflective. Where is your treasure? Where is your focus in life? What or whom do you value most? And if the first thing on our list, if the first thing that comes to mind isn't to worship God, to love neighbor, to follow Christ, then this is an opportune time for each one of us to reorient ourselves. In other words, to repent. To turn back to God. To turn back to following that Christ we talk so much about. And really pour our hearts and souls into our faith life. Because Jesus will guarantee you, if we do that, our family life will follow. If we do that, our work life will follow. Maybe not according to what we think is right, but I guarantee you it will follow according to what is right in the sight of God. And we really will be following the will of God. If God is first, that gives us the opportunity to follow God in everything we do, and then we will be right with God, and we will be doing the right thing in our family life, in our faith family life, in our work life, in our school life, how we are treating our friends, how we're treating the people that aren't our friends. For where your treasure is, Jesus says, there your heart will be also. Today is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. That is a mantra we ought to have every day, because that truly says that's where our treasure is. Every day is the Lord's day. Every day your treasure is the Lord your God. And if that's true, everything you do will follow. You will be given by God what you need. Spoiler alert, not what you want, but what you need. That's how we're to live our lives. Not just pastors, but all parishioners. Not just the adults, but all the children. All of us. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. My hope and prayer for you this day that the Lord has made is that you will begin to seriously reflect on this, not just today, but in the days ahead. And to truly look into your heart and to go back to God time and time again to find the only treasure that matters. Because in the end, when we pass from this life, you can't take it with you. Even if you want to put this in with you, this is going to fade. This is eventually going to decompose and it'll be gone. All the money that you have, as much as it's great, this too, all gone. All the time we may spend on, well, I gotta shop and have this because it's the most important thing to buy in my life, gone. When it comes to our time, the only treasure that will be left is whether or not we have been those faithful stewards. If we've truly sought the only treasure that matters, through Christ Jesus our Lord, to find true treasure in God, then we know the real treasure. That gift of eternal life is certain. And if we know that, if we pour our hearts into that, then as a congregation, we will have a new vision that most congregations do not have. we'll be able to look at our mission in new ways that most congregations do not have. And as a faith family, we will be able to be out in the community and to reach out beyond the world that's just right here. Reach out beyond the world of here and go into the big wide world. And give not only of this, but to give of ourselves generously to do God's work in this world. It is not impossible. In fact, it's very possible, because Jesus sums it up in these few words. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Amen.